Powered by the endless heat of a volcano in the city of Tarsig, factories hummed in the stifling grime and under the brightness of the seaside sun. Voices boomed from the enormous cast-iron bison in the middle of the largest manufacturing derrick in the middle of the lake. In the streets and alleyways of the surrounding city, the cats taught urchins how to change their shape. Jack, the alley cat's leader, plotted their next big score. The city takes magic and turns it into objects, and those objects are exchanged for gold. Is this gold enough to quell the growing unrest? In a place of such inequity, could gold ever be enough?
Emily, would you like to explore a neighborhood, visit a landmark, or meet a resident?
I want to explore a neighborhood.
All right, let's do it. What's the neighborhood?
I'm been thinking a bit about how the situation around Caldera would go. It's like the west side is where you get the nice oceanfront views with the beautiful sunset. That's the rich neighborhood, absolutely. But then the eastern side, you get the sunrise. But then it's in darkness at the end of the day. And I feel like that's where a lot of the workers end up living. Like where they can afford to live in their little tiny little, I don't want to say shacks. They're not like rundown hovels or anything, but just their little close neighborhoods. And I want one of those neighborhoods.
What is this neighborhood's title? What do the denizens call it?
The thing that comes to mind is Reprieve, because it's where they get to rest and be themselves outside of work.
Oh, that's lovely.
You get to go home to your family and whatever you have and just, with the setting of the sun, throw off the day's worries and just be.
What do the other neighborhoods think of Reprieve? What's the reputation of Reprieve outside of the city?
The people in charge of the factories hate it. They wish that they had their workers, could keep all of their workers closer. Just stick them on the middle of the lake with everybody else. Like, there's some people who live on the struts, probably. The ones who just, single people can't afford their own place, don't really have families to take care of, and you can't really keep small children that close to the factories. So these are the ones that, in a sense, get away. So they hate it.
The bosses hate it.
Yeah. It's like, we don't know what they're doing. They could be up to all kinds of no good debauchery and having fun, and we just want them to go to sleep and then come back to work.
I have another take that's very similar to that. I wonder if you were visiting Tarsig, they would tell you to stay away from Reprieve because that's the, quote, bad part of town.
Yeah.
If you were to go there, perfectly safe.
Yeah. That's where the good food is. That's where the good music is. That's where all of the different art forms are easier to find and relate to outside of, like a walled-off museum kind of deal. It's lively, it's colorful, it feels lived in because they know that this is the time that they have.
Tourists are told to stay away from the shadows, which is what that's called since it's cast in shadows most of the time. Stay away from the shadow neighborhood.
Yeah, the people that don't live there just call it Dark Town.
Dark Town.
Dark Town.
Dragon Age.
I've been replaying Dragon Age. Sorry.
That's fine.
Like, stay away from the dark. Stay away from the shadows. Like, don't go to the shadows after dark.
Yeah. Well, and it could even be that they get some sunrise, but maybe part of the caldera is raised on that side, and so it's even like the sun literally sets a little bit earlier there.
Yeah, basically all that they get is the direct sunrise, which will just wake you up. It's like, oh, time to go to work. It's like, we don't want to be woken up at 4 or 5 in the morning. No. Let them have that.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, that kind of means like they're pretty below the lid of the caldera. They're just like a hole in the caldera where the sun shines through, and then it's gone.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And there's like tunnels or something that they used to like get up to the rim and then catch a ride to one of the struts.
That's where they go through and then they catch whatever Are we doing trains? Are we doing trains, y'all?
I was thinking like rope trams.
Rope tramps. So that's they go through that hole. They go through that hole that the sunset comes through. The sunset.
Oh god, and they have to
that's where
wind it
people
up
come.
themselves.
Yeah.
It's hand operated.
Yeah, it's hand operated. Maybe it's magically operated, but yeah.
Yeah, well, magically supplemented, but it's like, hey, you're perfectly good. We can't waste all of our resources, but we also need you to be able to come and do your job.
I think there's one guy who sits there cranking all day, and they tell him it's hand operated because they don't know what else to do with him.
So you got that one guy just sitting there cranking it.
All members of society must be productive. No free ride.
He's been cranking that crank for like 50 years, and at some point they upgraded it. He doesn't need to do it anymore, but they just kind of let him be. They still pay him, maybe.
Can we stop saying the phrase cranking it? Because I think it's either going to break me or Zad.
He's super fucking friendly and he knows everybody. He's like a Walmart greeter. You can't get rid of the guy. He's basically a fixture.
And because he's so old and friendly, like he's not good for anything else, we're like, this doesn't hurt anything, and people actually seem to enjoy them, which increases their productivity. So
He is so ripped, though.
Oh god, yeah.
either that or the corporate people straight up forgot he exists, so he just sits there doing that. They just don't.
My guess is that one.
Yeah, they just forget.
And nobody mentions him because they don't want him to lose his job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone higher up had noticed that he's still on the payroll and just lets him stay on it.
And everyone else knows that, like, just don't say anything about it.
Just don't say anything. Yeah.
Just don't say anything.
What, you think all the people who work in the finance department are like higher ups? No, there's definitely some lower people who showed promise.
And we're allowed to obtain a higher position, but no, you cannot move out of the hole.
All right, so that is Reprieve, or Darktown, as other people call it. What is Reprieve's true name?
I don't know why I thought of like the longest bad poetic bullshit, but that's the game.
Yeah, it's encouraged.
A breath of fresh air on a moonlit night was what the phrase that came to mind. I'm like, that's so much.
Oh,
That's so much.
I kind of had something in mind where it was like called like its true name is A Cozy Gleaming Ember.
See, one thing I do imagine for it, because it gets so little sunlight, is they've come up with so many cool, fun, funky ways to light the place up so you can actually see. So there's definitely a lot of fun, colorful lights.
Oh, I just
on.
thought of a really sad true name. Can I?
Give me the
We
sad
do a
one.
lot of sad.
A Jar of Fireflies.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, that's good.
That is pretty
Sad.
good. That is pretty good. But the last one I had was a hearth in a storm.
Oh, that's very
Oh.
nice too.
Actually, yeah, it is also more protected from the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And the other element.
Like you thought you took one thing from us, but you gave us so many more, and we're just not gonna let you know about that. I do like Jar of Fireflies though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one doesn't make me feel sad though. Like it does, but also
But
like
you never know, the lid could come off.
assuming there's holes in the lid, it's all good.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
It's a kind of like a bittersweet name.
Yeah.
Mhm. Someday the lid could come off, just like the volcano.
If there was a jar of fireflies.
Why did you turn into Goofy?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you don't shake it too much, you should be fine. Unless these are fireflies that literally explode into fire, then maybe you shouldn't shake it.
Yeah, go ahead, shake it. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Shake the jar, see what happens.
So what are we landing on? Hearth in a Storm or Jar of Firefly?
They could both be true. as
They
we
could both be
established.
true. That's
And
true.
they
Yeah.
could both be true.
Jar of Fireflies is really good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty solid.
Because depending on how fireflies work in this world, that could be a powder keg.
See, now I want to figure out how fireflies work in this world.
You could always find out how fireflies work eventually here.
There's got to be a game somewhere with fireflies.
That's the name of the game,
Nope.
actually.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Bree, would you like to explore a neighborhood, visit a landmark, or meet a resident?
I would also like to explore a neighborhood. It's less of a specific place and more of something that just exists around the struts, but there's definitely a community around it. Because the way I'm picturing the struts is they're all like these big constructions. They're
Yeah.
big, there's lots of rooms, lots of places, lots of corners that get forgotten and so forth, and they're dealing with a lot of magic. So, for the people who work most hands-on with the magical material, there's a sort of like unwritten rule of if you start noticing that you can do things that you shouldn't be able to do, these are the kinds of places that you look for, and they'll help you figure out how to control it. Because the exposure has caused people to start developing magic that works differently than what's been seen before. So there are these like hidden and forgotten places that the higher ups don't pay attention to, don't care about, that exist around all of the struts, where these people who find out that like, oh, I can manipulate metal, or I can like pull soot off of things with my mind. They're able to
Oh.
manipulate. They have a very urban kind of magic that hasn't been seen before. So you can go there and they can help you like figure out how to get it under control. But there are also a lot of people, some people decide to keep building their abilities. So there's this underground magic society.
I'm sorry, did you say street magic?
Yes.
No, she said urban magic. So I was going to say, between the two neighborhoods Bree and Emily just did, you did cover everything I want to do in my neighborhood. So that's gone now.
You're fucked now.
Could we maybe like zero in on one specific one of these kind of enclaves and call it a landmark instead? Like, what's one of their gathering places for these people who have talents?
If we do want to actually switch it to a landmark, what if it's boiler rooms? People gather in the boiler rooms to practice magic, because that's not somewhere people do have to go and do work there.
Yeah, you don't
but
go
it's
there.
the higher ups aren't going to go there. There's like a lot of noise and it's not comfortable. So they're the boiler room witches.
I think I've read that book.
I haven't written it yet. No, you haven't. I'm going to have that be a neighborhood. I think I'm going to keep it as it's a neighborhood. And yeah, there's these different little clusters, but they have connections to each other. Because sometimes, like, someone that's working on this strut will be, like, switched over to this strut. So, like, all right, where's the boiler room? Hey, guys!
Very important question. Are these also drinking clubs? Are people down there having some, are people setting up stills in the boilers as well?
Yes, because it's a mix of, like, creating things that help people get control of their magic. Also, it's a nice place to just go and drink moonshine and complain about your problems.
It's not even just brewing alcohol. It's like a witch's brew type shit, too.
Oh my god, they're doing alchemy down there.
You go to the boiler room to vent some steam.
Mhm.
Hey!
Exactly.
Boo!
Shush, I'm leaving that in.
It was good.
So I had an idea. I'm just really enjoying this space. So it's a little bit like they're practicing magic. It's a little bit like a social club where only magic users can be invited, or people that are like cool. You got to get invited by
Yeah.
someone on the inside. It's like it's speakeasy vibes, right? But it's in the boiler room, so it's like clangy and it's kind of loud, and there's always machines going. I think they have come up with like a musical genre that is very meditative and drone based by responding to the sound of the machines with like various instruments, like wind instruments or like even like small organs, hurdy-gurdies. Like you sort of join in with the sound of the machines and harmonize with them to create this like really cool like droning atmosphere. And what's neat is because each boiler room is a little bit different, each one of the little boiler room clubs has kind of its own song that you learn down there, I think. And so you go down there and like you bring an instrument and you just kind of play along, and it takes the normally very stressful feeling of being in a room with a lot of machines and turns it into something that's actually quite soothing.
Industrial
Yeah,
jazz.
and they absolutely have come up with their own sort of like hand signal sign language to communicate, which is also helpful. Because when you're like trying to patch something, you're like, okay, someone looking, no one looking. Okay, I'm just gonna like smooth the metal. No one looking. Okay, oh nope, someone's looking. It's fine. I'm not doing anything.
Oh yeah, it's loud down there, so they're all using sign language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might actually might be normal in the factories in general, like to a degree.
Likely, yeah. So reputation. This is definitely one of those like not a lot of people know about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like an invitation only. There might be some rumors. Higher ups, absolutely, they might suspect, but they don't know anything. Because you don't talk about it, because you never know when your boiler room witch might save your life.
But I'll bet that there are people, including people in law enforcement, that are obsessed with the rumors of the boiler room witches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Except they don't know to look in the boiler room. Or when they do look in the boiler room, it's all gone because it's like someone's keeping an eye and they bang a rhythm on a pipe and it travels down and they're all gone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and to prove that they were down there doing magic, they need someone who understands that type of magic, and they're all the ones that they're trying to catch. They're not going to sense that it's there.
It's not exactly residential or commercial, but if you ever do need a place to stay and you have connection to the boiler room, they can get like they'll take care of you. Other neighborhoods think of them if they're other underground magical societies. I'm sure that there's at least like a couple of boiler room witches who know about the cats.
Mm-hmm.
There's some crossover.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. The people in the boiler room that is nearest to where the cats hang out have taught the cats the warning signal. So if the cats ever hear like that rhythm coming through the pipes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, some of the witches definitely use, or sometimes the cats will use the boiler room witches as fences, and some of the witches will use the cats and like hand them grocery lists and be like, I need this shit.
Use them as cat's
Oh,
paws, if you
absolutely.
will.
There's for sure a witch who thinks she has a familiar.
Absolutely. At least one.
At least one.
The reputation is they're helpful. You don't talk about them. You don't talk about the boiler room outside of the boiler room. You don't. Because you never know when one of them is going to save your life. For a true name, I mean, there's the boiler room witches.
The Coven of Iron and Song.
Yes!
Well, that's unbeatable. Fuck me.
Sorry, got that in
That
one.
is absolutely...
If we want it to be more YA, it needs to be a Coven of Iron and Song.
Oh no, it's all
Oh, no.
Ice and Fire. No, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
No, it's... The blank of blank and blank is also an option.
Sorry, George R.R. Martin's in my house right now. He has a gun.
No, put it back.
I get to do an event. It comes back to me, and whoever set the compass gets to hold an event. Your event should be related to the compass that you set, oh it is, at the beginning of the round, or to a card that was played during the round, oh it is. Events are a good way to tie up loose ends on questions that arose during a round. However, an event can also be a chance to highlight an aspect of the compass that was unexplored or to recontextualize other elements of the city that were discovered during play. Something has changed within the community. What is it? Well, dear listener, there is a violent terror attack on Strut Bison. Several factories are destroyed at once, with fish and material and casualties spilling into the caldera. It is done by an unknown group of eco-terrorists who openly claim that they are doing it in order to destabilize the hegemony of Tarsig. There are rumors that a dog was involved. That is the event. Several factories are violently destroyed in an attack, and that causes all sorts of stuff. How do we respond to this? Well, we now portray the voices of the city. Each player gets a chance to respond to the event by taking on a voice of the city. In doing so, the players are not embodying specific residents, but rather the myriad perspectives and viewpoints of the community, especially members of the city who may be impacted by the event. Once the person who chose the compass has created the event, start with the player to their left, that is Zad, as a voice of the city. So, Zad, you get to choose. Ask a question, state an opinion, or show a consequence of the terror attack.
Just to show a consequence, I think there's a shift of workers that are heading out from Reprieve and they go through the Sunset Tunnel. Then suddenly the night sky gets lit up as Strut Bison explodes. And there's some confusion and they don't quite know what to do. And then they just kind of turn around and go home. And they rest, and you just kind of just rapid cut through a series of shots as the dust is settling, as things are starting to kind of get tense. You see these people who in that initial shot looked tired already, even though they were just starting their day, almost becoming more lively, and they almost forget that anything happened until the money starts drying up. But there's suddenly this additional amount of time for some members of the community because there's less capacity for work to do.
I also wonder if literally in the hours following the shock, some people just get livelier and happier because they're fucking fine.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Reprieve specifically begins to it picks up this. It has this kind of extra pep in its step. Yeah, the workers start getting redistributed to temporary placements on other struts, or they get put on cleanup duty, or conscripted into the new stabulary that they're trying to work.
Catch those boiler room witches. They're obviously behind this.
Yeah, but I think in Reprieve, things are there's a little extra something.
Lex, ask a question, state an opinion, or show a consequence.
I think I'm going to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is... Well, I guess I got a question before I ask this question. Is everything here run by one company, or is it a bunch of companies? Or is it maybe the idea of technically they're a bunch of companies, but at the end of the day, blah is owned by blah is owned by blah. It's all Pepsi.
I think it's that. I think it's a conglomerate that when you get up to the top, there's one owner.
My brain just said some dude formed a company and then let all of his kids form little subsidiary companies. So it seems like they're all different people, but it's just one family. So, and that's part of the competitive nature between the different factories, is it's the brothers trying to compete with each other.
Well, it's about as we might be far enough down the line that people just don't remember they're maybe they're not siblings anymore. Maybe they're
oh yeah,
farther down a little bit.
And maybe we've gotten enough generations where in some cases it's no longer a hereditary thing. There actually are boards that are voting for people they think are going to be competent, quote unquote, CEOs. So there's still you can definitely tell it's a chain of ownership that leads to one central point, but it gets more and more confusing the longer this goes on. And that's by design, honestly. The bureaucracy protects the top leaders.
It's legal cover.
Yeah, that was a maybe though. Like if Emily does want to just be like one generation down, I'm cool with that too.
There's no way they fucked up the caldera in a single generation.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So that was your first question, but what's your second juicier?
My question was, do the different company faction dealios make a pact and start working together in the response to this, or are they still fighting or at least are they pretending to fight each other, or is it like, oh no, all of our enemies have now come together to be one big enemy?
Do they think it's someone else, or do they think it's one of the other companies?
So here's what I think. Here's what I think really does happen, and the answer to basically everything is a little bit of yes all around. I
Ask a
think
question supposed to be rhetorical.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This question is always rhetorical, let it hang in the air.
Well, and hold on. Now, this is just sort of the inciting incident because we also have 4 more compasses to set in the wake of this. So maybe part of that can be, we'll answer the question as we go. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So I guess the answer is I'm not allowed to answer it.
Yeah.
Caro said so.
I didn't read the part where it said rhetorical, but I'm
Me
cool with
either.
That question. I'm cool with that question hanging.
Yeah. All right. Emily, would you like to ask a question, state an opinion, show a consequence?
One obvious thing, it would be show a consequence, and an obvious consequence is there was just a big explosion in the middle of this place.
Yeah.
Authorities are putting shit on lockdown.
Yeah.
There is no going anywhere without them knowing until they know what just happened.
What effect does this have on Reprieve and the Boiler Room Witches? And the cats? Like, we've invented 3 counter corporate societies. What is the effect that this crackdown has on those?
The cats are still cocky kids. They, as far as they're concerned, they don't even know that the cats are people.
Yeah.
So they just stay in hiding more.
Mm-hmm.
The Boiler Room Witches have been ducking the authorities for a while, so they just kind of change how they do things and keep an eye.
Like, as much as I disgustingly hate it, the bulk of it's probably gonna of the lockdown's gonna come down on Reprieve, because those are the people that they couldn't necessarily account for, but had access to the munitions factory. Did we mention it was a munitions factory that exploded? It was a munitions factory.
I mean, it's the whole...
Yeah, it's munitions now. It is now.
Hey guys, I think it should be a munitions factory that blew up.
Hey, that's a great yes and. Can we all agree that it's a munitions factory?
Considering that we consider the first part of fishing to be canon, it was a munitions factory.
True. And there was a dog involved.
And there was a dog involved.
The crackdown is centered on Reprieve.
They are currently the most suspicious and have the most to gain.
And they're the easiest target.
They're higher up and protected. Can't find the boilers. They don't really know about the alley. Lowest rung on the ladder is let's kick first.
3.
I have a consequence.
Okay. We're just consequences all day long.
Because also we established how the Boiler Room Witches came to be was the exposure to that magical material that just got blasted into the air.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the higher-ups and the people that live in the rich part of town have now become exposed. Some of them have become exposed to this magic and are starting to develop the magic that is illegal, which they have to hide it. Like, we would never, like, participate in something that's against the law, so that causes either maybe some people to sympathize or some people to be like, no, we have to, like, stamp this out, or here, you saw nothing, here's money. It causes some chaos, instability, and like trust issues among the effectively nobility and middle management. And the Boiler Room Witches are just sitting here cackling.
Actually, cackling is a stereotype for witches.
On occasion, witches have been known to guffaw.
Giggle
Chortle even.
sometimes.
I say cackle because that's what I as a person do.
Reese
I
Witch,
see.
you
That's
hear.
what I as a person would be doing, is cackling.
Cackling is a valid response to what's happened here.
Occasional giggle fits in the streets. It's like, what are you laughing at? Nothing. I saw something funny, or so-and-so just said a joke. I'm not laughing at you. As you are frantically trying to hide the fact that you were messing with the pavement by walking on it. Just think lighter thoughts. I know it doesn't make sense. Just think lighter thoughts, and it won't melt under your feet.
The player who declared the event is the last player to take on a voice of the city. That's me. In this way, they have the last word on the event, as well as this round's compass. Events are never monolithic, and no single perspective has all the facts. After the leading player takes on the final voice of the city, they should end the event phase by writing a second perspective. Ooh, okay. By writing a second perspective to the event. The event's other side should complicate it. Add a new point of view that came up during the conversation or one that was previously unconsidered. After the event is finished, the round is over, and we take a rest stop, and then we move on to the next person who sets a compass. So what I'm going to do is I am going to ask a question. And that is this. If it wasn't Reprieve, if it wasn't the Gutter Cats, if it wasn't the Boiler Room Witches, who actually did the attack?
I know what you're doing, Ben.
I know, I'm being a sneaky fucker. That's what I'm doing. Even if we are nodding at the events of this is a game about fishing, I mean, we know who perpetrated it, but we don't know who was behind it other than, like, one person. And that's, one person does not make a move like that. You know, it's way too big of a job, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So when I ask who did it, I don't mean just, like, who were the individual perpetrators of the attack. I mean, like, what else is out there that is planning actions like this? And then I am supposed to put in a complication, another perspective. And the other perspective is this, and it actually holds a surprising amount of weight. There is a very good case to be made that the attack was either supported by or allowed to happen intentionally by the leadership of Tarsig in order to allow them to initiate the crackdown. There is legitimate evidence to suggest that it was, in fact, a false flag operation. And so that concludes my turn. Next time we play, we will start with Zad doing a compass. And we'll try to slam through as many kumpai as possible. And that's it for Game Woven. Thank you all, everybody. Make sure to tip your Boiler Room Witches. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Game Woven. If you like what we're doing, pop on by the review section in your favorite podcasting app and leave us a review. You can also support us over on Patreon. This week we were playing I'm Sorry, Did You Say Street Magic by Caro Assercion, featuring Brianna Jean, ttbenjamin, Lex Olden, Zadkiel Vaske-Huff, and Emily.
Yeah, money fixes so many problems. People should have the money to live comfortable lives regardless of where they were born or the jobs they have. Just saying, gold would fix inequity. That's sort of the main source of inequity, honestly. Poverty. So, like, yeah, that would do it.